Yo, what's going on, guys? Jay Kwan here, and we're back at it again with another Locals game of myself playing Ruby Sapphire Robin Hood items deck. I've been testing this deck out a lot since launch of the new set, and I've been loving it so far. Still need to do a couple tweaks to it. Hopefully you guys would be able to make some suggestions on how to make it more consistent and, have Robin Hood's hits and do what it does best with using Bell, and Bell Shift, Tamatoa, and Maui Half Shark. So as you guys can see here, I've brought up the deck list for you guys. And right now, the strategy is to do Unconventional Tool turn 1, Bell on turn 2 into a Fishbone Quill, ramp up into a Robin Hood or Hiram, or the other option is to go turn 1 Popsicle or any other item, or develop your brain, and then Azurite C following it up into Robin Hood, Hiram, and also the Scrooge. Now, we also have a deck list of my buddy Aaron, who's also playing the Amber Song deck, doc.tcg, and he's playing more traditional rather than the Diggy Diggy Ho. And he has a lot of amazing text that he's actually put into his deck, this Locals, just because that day there's about maybe like 80% Sapphire Steel decks running around. So he teched in Benjas, Gantus, and I find him in Platinum, which is super devastating, when you can play it out at the right time. So we'll see if we're actually going to be able to survive all these techs. And as you can see here, he's also playing the Troubadour and Ursula as well. So some pretty nice new cards for Amber Songs here. Now, moving forward, when it comes to these local games, I'll try my best to have the deck list of both, but majority of the time it's going to be the deck that I'm showcasing and bringing over to Locals, and I'll have that up and running here for you in the beginning of the video, but also the link to Dreamborn down at the bio. So it looks like we do start it off here on the play, and again, being best out of 2, this means that the Amber Song player will also be able to go first next game as well. So we open up and play a Develop, and I did opt in to play 2 Develop Your Brain in this build just because, again, it works very well with Robin Hood and Maui Half Shark just because it's really cheap. It also adds a lot more consistency as well, and you can also play it right after you ramp with Azurite C. Alright, so unfortunately it doesn't look like the Amber Song player got any 1-drops, so he inks and pass, and we just do what we do best in blue decks, and we just ramp it up with Azurite C, ink an Unconventional Tool, and playing Popsicle. So far so good. We are usually wanting to see this type of ramp and curve into Popsicle, and then the next turn on turn 3, dropping down that Hiram and getting those 2 draws from discarding that item there. Now, with this Ruby Sapphire build that I have, unfortunately, it doesn't have too many early game characters that we can really dish out to protect us. Really, the only thing that's going to come out early would be Bell, and that's if we have an item to discard it. Other than that, we're going to need to rely on the ramp to get into our 4-drop characters, right? Like Robin Hood, Scrooge, and the Hiram. So we're inking the Brawl. And looks like we're opening up with our standard Robin Hood Sharpshooter. So for those that don't know what Robin Hood does, is that anytime that it quests, you mill the top 4 cards of your deck, and if there's any action that's 6 or less, you get to play it for free. So the reason why I'm playing it in the Ruby Sapphire ability is because Robin Hood can actually mill out your items into the discard, and I do play Treasures Untold, which essentially does the same thing as Tamatoa's 6-drop, so adds 2 items from the discard into the hand. So if you get this off with Robin Hood, you're essentially questing for 2 and getting back 2 items from the discard. So it's really, really synergistic when it comes to the whole deck of having items in the discard, getting them added back with Tamatoa's 6-drop, but also feeling for that Bell Shift, because Bell Shift is essentially, it reduces the cost anytime that you have items in your discard to shift it out. So I'm hoping that maybe we can drop that super early after curving in with Robin Hood. And that Bell shift is a crazy 7/7 character that's going to quest for 3. So we're hoping to go for that as the game plan, and then following it up with maybe a Tamatoa 6-drop and perhaps even a Maui Half Shark as well. Because Maui Half Shark does also combo very well with the Robin Hood Sharpshooter. Because again, you could drop the Maui Half Shark, quest with Robin Hood, and essentially get an action for that and gain 1 lore from Maui Half Shark. All right, so it looks like, Amber Songs does what they do best, play the aerial, get the song, and then passes it over to us, where we then drop the Hiram and draw 2 by discarding that Popsicle there. So early in the game, we're not going to have too many characters that are going to be able to contest with the Amber Song board, just because, again, Robin Hood is a 1/4, and the Hiram's a 1/6. So it's not going to be too strong to start challenging anything. So that's why we're also relying on Robin Hood to get out actions like the Pirate's Life. That way we can gain 2 lore and then reduce the opponent's lore by 2 as well, keeping us in the game longer for us to stabilize the board. So it looks like Smee runs right into the Robin Hood, so that way he can get an additional damage to play the Rapunzel and getting that 2 card draw. And then he also follows it up with Singing into a Storm that then takes out the Robin Hood and leaves the Hiram on board there for me. Okay, so we are going to sing How Far I'll Go, just because we don't have any items right now that we can play, unfortunately. So Far I'll Go is going to allow us to ramp quicker into maybe a Tamatoa 8-drop. But it's also going to allow us to search our deck as well, right? We're going to see the top 2 cards of the deck, putting one into the Inkwell and the other into the hand. So as you can see, with Develop and How Far I'll Go, with these types of actions into the deck, I'm hoping that can really bring out the consistency and do a lot more of our strategies of what we want to do there in the game. All right, so we're dropping the Tamatoa 6-drop, and this is a new card from Archazia's Island that allows you to add 2 items back from the discard into your hand, and then the following turn, if you can quest out with it, it will allow you to play any item for free from your hand. So we're hoping to maybe drop a dime with it, ideally. Okay, so looks like when it comes to, the Amber Song's turn, they're gonna go into turn with 5 ink. So it looks like he inks I Find Him and Flanum, plays a Daisy Duck, and sings Whole New World. And it's gonna discard every single item that I have in my hand that I brought back with Tamatoa, unfortunately. But not to worry, there are other ways to get back those items, so that's totally fine. We're getting a fresh hand of 7, and hopefully with the amount of ink that we have, we can really start to build up the board presence and take back the game here. Okay, so Rapunzel sings Zeus, and that's a 1-for-1, takes out the Tamatoa in a very, very clean way, unfortunately. And drops the Gantu. Okay, so Gantu is another new card here from Archazia's Island. It's considered in Yu-Gi-Oh terms a floodgate, just because it does slow the game state down quite a bit. So essentially what it does is that when it gets played, neither player can sing songs until the next turn. And both action and items cost 2 more. So that will slow down a lot of the item decks there. And even if you do have an out to Gantu, you will be needing to pay that additional 2 extra ink, right, to play that action. Because in the deck right now for the outs, we have the Brawls and we have the Let It Go. So that means Brawl is going to essentially become a 5-cost action just to get rid of that Gantu. Yeah, we're thinking long and hard here, because I believe this is one of the first times that I've actually stared down a Gantu using an item deck. So really just trying to navigate through this board and and that 2 additional costs. And I think what my game plan here is now is to really just get that Gantu off the board, because that can really slow you down, right? Like your popsicles and unconventional tool becomes a 3 cost instead of a 1. So I think we do have a Brawl in hand, and that's what we probably end up doing, is using the Brawl for 5. Because at this point, like, yeah, sure, we can use the Brawl for 5 and get rid of the Aereo or Rapunzel or Daisy, but the longer that Gantu sticks around, the slower our plays are going to be, right? And it's just going to hinder us long term. Yeah, I'm thinking long and hard, just also due to the fact that because we have a brand new hand with Whole New World, we have 8 cards in our hand, right, to choose from. So this is a really crucial point in the game of really figuring out, what to play next, because anything could be a game breaker at this point. We really need to turn things around, because Amber Songs are known to go incredibly wide on the board after they Whole New World, because they just have so much gas from there, right? Yep, looks like we play the Brawl. We do pay 5 and we get rid of the Gantu, because, yeah, again, that Gantu is going to slow us down. And we are now able to play Azurite Sea for its regular cost of 2, drawing us a card and allowing us to ink an additional time this turn. Just based off of the deck list that I've brought to this local game, I think some of the changes that I'm gonna start tweaking is trying to fit in maybe 2 B preps and probably the Sisu lines, just for this scenario right now, right? Because if we had a B prep, that would get rid of the board, or a big Sisu shift that would clean the board entirely, aside from the Smee. And that's usually how Ruby Sapphire decks win against faster, more aggro decks as well, is being able to ramp as much as possible into your B preps or big Sisu. So I definitely am missing that right now, because I think what I have in my hand is a bunch of larger cost characters and maybe some uninkable cards as well that really don't do too much, because we are playing Maurice's Workshop, which I'm a little bit iffy on, because it's a 3 cost uninkable item. And when you play an item, you can pay an additional ink to draw an additional card. So it is a little bit slow. We're not playing any Oswalds or anything, right? So we do have to hard cast it, or get it off with unconventional tool, making it cost 1. But I think that's probably going to be one of the cards I might consider cutting for cards like B Prep and Big Sisu Shift here. And unfortunately, it does look like the Amber Song player drops the Gantu. I believe it's a second Gantu in his deck. I think he either plays 2 or 3. But it's unfortunate for us, because again, that's going to slow us down quite a bit, because now we have to prioritize taking over and getting rid of that Gantu before we can play into the board. And he drops that very nice Enchanted Cinderella. Love to see it. Yeah, my buddy Aaron here has like a souped up deck with the DLC promos of Rapunzel and Cinderella and Enchanted Robin Hood and Enchanted Cinderella. So it's like a $2,000 deck that he's bringing to locals here. Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing too, is that even if we did have B Prep, Gantu is essentially going to make it a 9 cost. So it's going to be a very expensive B prep even if we did have it. And there's just so many cards that essentially counter our deck now, that Amber Songs can play, right? They can play Benjas, I find them in a Platinum, the Gantus, and they also have the Peats as well to stop the actions from going through the following turn, right? Meaning that Be Prepared will be of no use, and you really got to rely on other ways to get rid of their cards. So again, luckily for us, we have another Brawl. But unfortunately, we do have to pay 5 just to use that Brawl. At least that clears off the Gantu. That way we can start to play more items and actions. So we do play the Fishbone Quill, using that to ink a card in our hand, and then discarding it with the Hiram to draw 2 more fresh cards, and hoping for an out at this point. Because right now in our deck, we do play the Vitalis Spheres, and of course the Maui Half Sharks. So we're hoping that we can utilize that combo next turn to really gain back control of the board. But what do you guys think? You think it might be too late for us here to control the board, or is there other cards that we can actually search for to maybe perhaps gain back control? So let me know in the comments. All right, so we're inking a Maui Half Shark, and then we pass the turn. So let's see what he does now. Right now, it looks like the score is 5-6. So we are still clear for now, but I believe after this turn, he's probably just going to quest out with everything just because we only have a Hiram on board. And again, it doesn't really challenge for very much either. Okay, so inks an Aereo and plays a Smeet, or Pete. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're just getting totally locked down turn after turn after turn. So first 2 Gantus, and now we have to deal with a Pete, locking us out of actions the next turn. Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing about Ruby Sapphire decks as well, is that the character count isn't all too high. Because you know, you're usually playing a lot of items and then a lot of actions, right? Okay, so that whole new world again is being played, and we're discarding our whole hand, one of them being a Maui Shark, which is unfortunate because, you know, again, if we had the Vitalis Sphere, then maybe we could have done something, because we could also rely on Pirate's Life to gain back the lore control, right? Minusing 2 lore from the opponent if we were able to do that. But at this point, I think the Amber Song player just went way too wide, and there's nothing we can do. Even if we did run B prep at this point, right? We're locked out of actions on the next turn due to Pete. Really, the only thing here that I would have liked to see would have been the big Sisu shift, because at least that would have got rid of like 90% of everything that's on the board there. But hey, we do have a lot of ink. I believe right now we have like 12 inks, so we do have options that we can definitely play out. But it's just a matter of fact of if we're able to actually find that Vitalis Sphere and start challenging things. Yeah, now looking back at this board state, for sure, Big Sisu would have been such a blowout, because then the only thing that would have survived would just be the Pete. And still being early in the game, with Amber Song still with 6 lore, we probably would have been able to come back after that big Sisu being dropped. So definitely a really high consideration for me to put that into the deck now. All right, so we do 1 for Unconventional Tool, 4 for Hiram. Okay, so we're digging for answers here. Okay, we play Maurice's Workshop for 1, just because Unconventional Tool went to the discard, so the next item that we play costs 2 less. So this means that every single item that we play after that, we can pay an additional ink to draw another card, but at this point, we just really want to focus on the board presence here. Because there's 7 characters on the Amber Song side, and you need to get rid of that. All right, so there's the Vitalisphere, and we're gonna keep digging here. Playing Bell, getting rid of that workshop. Okay, so we are able to use the Vitalisphere onto the Bell or Hiram to get rid of one character, but I don't know if that's gonna be enough here. Yeah, my buddy Aaron played the game incredibly well. Like, even if he missed that one drop, he was just able to slow me down so much due to the Gantus and just being able to have so many characters on the board. And the fact that, like, Whole New World just replenishes the hand and potentially giving the Amber Song players more songs to sing with is pretty detrimental. Yeah, at this point, I'm like counting the amount of lore that's on board that's going to be quested next turn. And I'm like, hey, I don't think there's anything I can really do here. I think we're cooked. Okay, so plays a Storm, takes out the Bell, and draws another card. Plays the Rapunzel, heals the Daisy, gets a couple of draws. Follows up with another Pete. He's like, nope, if you couldn't do a B prep last turn, you're definitely not doing it this turn. And attempts to quest with everything. We miss with both of the daisies, not being able to get a character to add back to hand. And I think at this point, we just scoop it up. Because we're totally cooked. But I'd say this is a really good showcase game of Amber Songs, because Amber Song has always been a top contender as like the top 3 or top 4 meta decks, right? It's been around since set 1, and it's just so versatile. Like, the more songs that come out, the better the deck gets. It's so versatile just due to the fact that you can tech in so many cards like like Gantu and Benjas, right? Because previously, like in other formats, Amber Songs were able to use cards like Grab Your Swords in faster formats. And I know that there's different variations of like Amber Steel with like Diggy Diggy Ho. But the problem with like Diggy Ho is that you really gotta go wide and really gotta quest hard, really quick before any of the other decks are able to gain control back of the board. But with this Amber Song build, it looks very, very control mid-range. But you know what they say, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think that's the case here with the Amber Songs. Yeah, looking back at the deck list as well, the Amber Song list is pretty clean. It's pretty clean. It's still pretty early before any of the meta decks have been really refined. But I think Amber Song is definitely a top contender, right? That and like Emerald Steel and potentially even Amethyst Steel. Just because those 3 decks are all steel ink pairings, therefore, again, you're able to play Gantus and Benjas against all the item decks running around, right? Ruby Sapphire and Sapphire Steel. Steel is just such a strong color, right? Like, almost every single top deck right now has a steel pairing color in it. because it's so good for removal. And the versatility of that color as well. All right, so we're dropping the Bell Shift coming down, and it's a 7/7, and unfortunately I think it might be a little too late there. But it is a really cool card, you know, to play, and can definitely be one of the game-ending cards, because again, it quests for 3, and essentially what it does is that when it quests, you can return up to 3 items from your discard to the bottom of the deck to gain 1 additional lore. So this means that potentially Bell is able to get you up to 6 lore in 1 turn once it comes out. Yep, so we decided to just scoop it up. You know, we're dead next turn, so we're gonna pass it over to Aaron, who's gonna be able to go on the play the next game here. All right, so we cut it out to right into game 2. Just because we spent a little bit of time there just talking about, you know, all the things that happened in the last game, like the double Gantu and double Pete. So we don't need to wait on that. So we just went straight into game 2, and doesn't look like the Amber Song player was able to get a 1-drop again. So he just, you know, inked and passed turn. And now we're developing our brain just due to the fact that, you know, we need to find items, and finding ramp is very important as well, because we just need to slap some big characters and make sure that they stick. All right, so he plays a Troubadour. So in his list, he's playing 2 Troubadour and 3 Ursula Vanessa. What do you guys think about Troubadour? You know, Troubadour is a really good card. You know, it does resemble Ursula Vanessa quite a bit, just except the fact that it has 1 less willpower, but it does have 1 resist, which doesn't have the most synergy with Rapunzel. But I do notice a lot of Amber Steel decks that are playing Troubadour are also playing Bianca's as well, because essentially Bianca can come out 2 turns earlier if you control an ally. Yeah, so this is like the perfect example of Benja's coming down at the right time, getting rid of our unconventional duo that we needed for the harem, to really just be able to recur more, you know, hand advantage. So unfortunately, we were denied out of that. And Troubadour, being Singer 4, is able to sing a Zeus and take out the Robin Hood sharpshooter right away before we can start questing with this. So super oppressive here. We're feeling oppressed. Benja quest for 2 as well, which is insane. The only downside of Benja that it is a 2 strength, 3 willpower, so it doesn't trade very well into many characters. But it does quest for 2, so it does go on theme with, you know, being able to go wide and aggro out with a bunch of lore. All right, so we're inking the Bell Shift, playing that Fishbone Quill, and using the Fishbone Quill to ink. And okay, we're playing a Brawl, getting rid of the Benja. So the reason why I'm choosing Benja over Ariel is, again, Benja is questing for 2. And at this point, because I have the Fishbone Quill, I don't mind if the Ariel sings Whole New World, because then again it replenishes our hand and we can potentially Fishbone more cards for more ink. But in this case here, another Benja gets dropped and defeats out a Fishbone Quill that we played last turn. So we're seeing here on both games Aaron's techs, right, to these item decks here. Last game we're seeing double Gantu and double Pete, and in this game we're seeing double Benja. So I'd say he made the best meta call possible for his locals, because he was expecting everyone to be on some sort of item variation deck, which he called right. All right, so he sings Zeus, puts 5 damage onto the Hiram, plays a Pete. Oh boy. Questing for 2. And passes turn. This means that potentially, even if he used Zeus and didn't really take out my Hiram, when it quests, it's going to be vulnerable for Troubadour to trade with it. And Troubadour is resist 1, so it's not going to take any damage. It feels bad, you know, when you have to use Hiram's ability to get rid of your own Fishbone Quill, but sometimes that's just what you got to do, right? Yeah, there are times when Amber Songs, when you know you draw a bunch of Uninkables and you don't get any songs from Aerial, it feels really bad, right? But there's also times when Amber Songs just feels almost unbeatable. Like like these 2 games, it just felt such like an uphill battle to just navigate through his board. And he drops another Pete. So we're getting Benjud after Benjud after Pete after Pete. Holy moly. Challenges the Hiram with the Troubadour. And I play out a Robin Hood Sharpshooter. Hopefully Robin Hood Sharpshooter can stick around this time. And maybe I can get like a Brawl or a Pirate's Life out of it. That's crazy. Double Benja, double Pete. Okay, and there's a Ursula Vanessa. So she's also a 4 singer, a singer 4. And he's just questing all the way to 17. Oh my gosh. All right, let's see if Robin Hood can save me here. Quest for 2, and oh, we did get a Brawl, but it's not going to be enough to save us. We need to do a full-on board wipe here, which we can't even do even if we did have Be Prepared, because then every single character that the Amber Song player plays is going to be lethal. Can't win them all. But again, it's still early in Archazia's Island, so you know that's what we're here to do in locals, is just to keep testing and keep brewing, and figure out the meta one step at a time, right? But yeah, don't forget to you know, like and subscribe. I really do appreciate all of your support. And again, we're gonna try to have you know, some weeks with local games and other weeks with feature matches. Again, there are going to be a Discord group that we did create recently, so feel free to come in and join that. And yeah, until next time, guys, peace.